Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today I thought that I could do a bit of an educational video. That I'm not the most educational person anyway, but I thought that I would help a few people out, maybe a sort of beginners. And yeah, and if you like this video, let me know in the comments below and I can try and do maybe a beginner series. And yeah, it might be a bit of fun. So I know probably my friends when I was little, and they look at you and go, how on earth do you muck out that stable? There is just poo everywhere. How do you separate the poo from the wee, from the wet? It's all confusing. So I thought that I'd help you out and do a how to muck out a stable. So I know this is such an old sort of YouTube video, but I thought it could be fun, and there's so many young viewers that watch my channel, and you may not own a horse, but you may be interested in future owning a horse, or you're just curious. So I thought that I would do a more in-depth of how to muck out a stable. So come along with me while I'll show you. So I thought that I'd start with Neebo's stable, just because I would show you Makari's stable, but he is absolutely filthy, and I don't think it's very realistic. So Neebo's dirty, but he's sort of a regular stable to muck out. So come along with me. So first thing first, you need your tools. So as you can see, I have a wheelbarrow here. You'll need, for my sake, I always use a broom or a blower, but obviously we're going to do this sort of regular style. A broom, a shaving fork, and a barrow. So this is my barrow of choice. Yes, it's very large, and it's larger than most normal barrows. But this is what I prefer to use. You'll find that the older you get and the more stables you muck out, you need to invest in a bigger barrow. So this is a shavings fork. This is what I use to muck out my stables. So some people might say, shouldn't you only use that with shavings? But I use it with straw also. So this is how to muck out a straw bed. And yeah, hope you find this interesting. Also, you will need a broom. So this is my broom, trusty broom of choice. It is a corn broom, but also known as a witchy broom, because yes, you look like a witch. But now we've got our tools, let's go find the stable. So this is Neebo's stable. As you can see, he's not too bad, but he's still dirty. So I don't know if you can see, it's sort of where that shadow lines, but that is the bed. This bit should be clear, and he keeps his hay in the corner. So let's get started. So I now have my stable of choice, my broom and my shavings fork, and then I've got my barrow literally just where this camera is. The barrow's not that interesting, it's just where you put the waste. So first things first, in my case, what I like to do is I like to gather up all the hay. So as you can see, there's some bits of hay that's mixed in with the bedding, so I thought to put that to one side just because I don't really want to put that back in the pile. Yes, I like to save as much hay as possible. So just quickly, there is a poo that Neebo has done in his hay. So I'm going to just remove that. As you can see, it picks up quite a lot of hay, but if he's pooed in it, I'm not going to want him to eat it. Once that dropping is removed, you can then sort of start shifting through all the straw out of the hay area. So once I'm getting sort of all the hay that I think that he will still be able to enjoy back into the corner. So obviously it doesn't matter if there's a tiny little bit of bedding because it is only straw. So it is not going to go any harm to him, because some horses eat their bedding anyway, and it is very, very safe, especially with straw. So that is the sort of straw mix with hay situation that I do not want Neebo having. So I'm just going to pop that to one side, as you can see. So that is the sort of hay and straw that is mixed together. So as you can see, this pile is got hay mixed with straw, and then this pile is just mainly hay, and then we have the bed itself. So now we need to move on to the actual mucking out situation. So what I like to do when I muck out, obviously you can see there's still little bits of hay, but that can just go in with his bed just because it is mostly straw. So what I like to do this is just my technique and way of doing things. I like to get all the clean and I chuck it up the banks. So the banks are this all the way around the edge. So as you can see, it's a lot more higher. So that's what we call the banks. And also people use banks for stopping a horse getting cast, which cast is sort of when a horse lays down or rolls over and they get stuck on the wall. So if they have a bank, they've got something to bounce off of and hopefully get through. So what you want to do then, now we've got our sort of situation where you can't really chuck this up because it's got poo in it. You then want to just pick up the poo like this, and as you can see, I now have poo that I want out of his bed. So then I'm going to chuck that into the barrow. As you can see, I've still got some clean straw on the fork, so I just put the back into the bed up the banks. As you can see, there's a big pile here. Nearby likes to sort of poo in one pile. You just want to shift the poo out like that. As you see, I've got quite a lot of poo on my fork, and then it goes straight into the barrow, and then I just sort of gather it back into the place where I want it to be, and then I pick that back up again and go straight to the barrow. Sort of carry on, same again, and just take out the area where the poo is. As you can see, I'm taking a lot of straw out also, but that is because that is wet straw underneath the poo where he is weed. Get the poo out without taking too much straw like this. As you can see, this section over here has not got a lot of poo on it, so I'm just going to push that through, grab this clean section and chuck that up a bank. And then you can see here, there's some poo here which I'm going to take out. Same again, chuck the cleanness up the banks, gather the poo like this. There we go. So it's a bit different with straw to shavings, because obviously shavings you shake the fork to let the shavings fall through and the poo lays on top of the fork. But in this case, I just sort of scoop under, as you can see, and then there is straw. But what I do is when I take it over to the barrow, I tip first, and as you can see, there's some clean straw. So then I bring that back into the stable and scrape it off. Then you aren't wasting that much straw. So same again, I'm just gonna shift through now and chuck the dirty into one little bit here. And then as you can see, that is all dirty. So then I'm gonna pick that up and that can go straight to the barrow. So now that all the droppings and the poo is in the barrow, I now want to show you about the wee and the wet and how it is sometimes not as visible. So as you can see, this section here, that looks relatively clean, but it's probably not. So what we should do is we should pick up the top layer like this carefully and chuck that up on to the bank, just like this. But now, as you can see, if I pick it up properly and turn it over, that is all dirty and that is wet. And if I do the same here and pick it up and chuck it over, and you see there is wet on the bottom. So you'll notice that it's wet because it's a different colour. It's very sort of yellowy red and not very nice. So that needs to be taken out the stable. And as you can see under the banks, you will get it also. So if I get to this side and show you under a bank, I will show you what removing the wet means. So if I go under here and pull this out, can you see how dirty that is? So that needs to be pulled out, and that is all wet. Just want to remove the wet, and as you can see, under these banks are more wet because his wee has gone under the bank. So once that is all removed, you can then sort of leave the bed up to dry if you wish, but you need to now remove the wet out the stable. So once I picked up all the wet, I then scrape all that I have on the floor where the wet was into sort of a pile, and then I will throw that also because that has been on the floor and that is wet. I then also showed you earlier that there was a pile that I didn't want in the stable, which is hay mixed with straw. So I'm going to chuck that on top of the barrow also, just to make sure that he has got clean hay. You will then probably find some droppings that have missed the barrow, round near the barrow. So I gather them also and just create a clean pile to pick up like this. So I just use the back of the fork to scrape any unwanted bits from the stable. So then you will be left with a stable that looks a lot like this. So this is when your broom comes in handy. So what I like to do, as I said, that there is still wetness on the floor, I scrape it up because I don't want to put clean bedding on top of wet. So what I do with the broom, if you've never used a broom before, obviously you're not going to know, but if you use broom, you just scrape it like this. It's not too hard to work out. So you just want to sweep all of the middle out, and I sort of just put that to one side, and then I will make a pile. So once the middle has sort of been scraped off of the bedding area, I then start to make a pile, and then you will have areas outside the stable which have sort of been pushed out just where you're mucking out. So just want to sort of gather them bits as well, just so the stable is nice and clean. And then you sort of want to sweep all of that into a pile. So once you then have a pile like this, you then can remove it. Oh, you then can remove it with your fork like this. So then you will have a stable like this that is clean and it's got a lot of straw around the banks. So what I do is I will then bring the banks down, because then you have clean straw that you have saved from the bed. So what I do is I bring all of this straw down, and then you will probably find little bits of darker straw, which then you can just remove, because it's easier to see when the bed is all clean when you bring it down. So then I just scrape it back and forth just to sort of flatten it down. Like I said, you will get little bits when you're like, oh, I missed that, but you can easily just remove them. And you probably will get some of this just bringing down the bed, as some of them can hide. So once that's all sort of brought down, you then just go down round and flatten it all. Just make sure that it's all sort of smoothed down. You can make banks if you want, like you see before, and put just straw in the middle just so they've got extra banks, but I don't tend to put banks in here for Nebo, just because he's not that much of a roller, and I want to give him some more space without the banks taking up too much space. So, but you can easily make banks. I can show you in a different video, or you can just watch someone else's, but this is just sort of a typical muck out. That's not too complicated. So once I've sort of got all the bedding down, I then sort of, this is actually a little trick, but I drag the bedding out a little bit, then further than I want to. And then I flat it with the back of my fork. So I go around and I get the bed and I pat it down with the back of my fork. This just sort of compacts all the straw together. So hopefully when Nebo comes back in, that his poos will then lay on top of the bed and not fall through it. So then, because I told you to drag it out a little bit more, I like to sort of use this line as a base, which I'm going to show you now. Is what I do is I dragged it out a little bit more, and then I use the back of my fork and I scrape it back to the line. And this actually creates a thicker line barrier, which looks really neat. So then you can sweep this. If your stable is clean enough and you think that you don't need to add any more straw, you can just leave the stable like this. But in this case, I always like to add some more straw to my beds. So I'm going to take the barrow to the muck heap, empty it out, and show you how we do that. And then we're going to grab some more straw and some hay. So come along with me. So now we have a full barrow. We need to take this to the muck heap. I actually find this the worst part about mucking out. As you can see, I brought my fork with me because I like to use that to help me chuck it up at the muck heap. So this is our muck heap. As you can see, it's all kept quite tidy and it's all chucked up. So I'm going to show you how we do that. We get our barrow, I drop it off and I drop my fork off. And what we do is we pick it up like this. As you can see, it moves. And then we pick it up all the way and we chuck it. So then what I like to do is I actually like to hook my foot under a bar and sort of just tip it like this and tip it all the way over. And then you can do it like that and give it a little shake just so we know that the barrow is empty. And then I will then bring the barrow back like this, put my foot on there and pull it back. And then we have an empty barrow. So then, once the barrow is empty, you're then left with another pile. I know, it's like mucking out twice. It's a lot. If you want to become horsey, just take this all in because you'll be doing this every day. It's a lot, okay? So, you can either use a straw fork, which looks like this, which has got bigger prongs, or you can use a shavings fork. To be honest, both work, but I'm going to use this one just for now, but you can use this one. So then you just want to put the prongs in and just flick it up like this. It's a bit of an arm workout, but it's easier for the farmers to pick it up in the JCB once it's all chucked up nicely. And also, it sort of makes your muck heap last a bit longer when you chuck it up neatly, because then you can compact it more and sort of fit more muck on before it gets emptied. As you can see, this is where our hay and straw is stored. So we make our own hay and straw on the farm. So this is ours. And we have made this in our fields. So this is a fresh bale that has just been delivered. So I do need to cut this open. And then we have opted for small bales. You can get big bales like this of straw. It's completely your option. It's just different prices. But I actually prefer little bales just because I like to just grab the sections instead of one big section, and it is a lot messier. So I use my barrow again. You will need to invest in a barrow if you become a Christian, because obviously you just can't do nothing without them. I will then cut my strings and take as many slices as I think that I will need in my stable. It matters how much straw you've got in your stable. If you think like the stable I've just mucked out, that he will probably only need like 4 sections just to sort of sprinkle some newness on top of the bed. But obviously if he's got no bed, then you might need to use a whole bough, or you might need to use half a bough. So you just sort of do it by how much you think that they should need. But obviously in my case, I think I would only probably need 4 or 5 slices. As you can see, I have already broke this one. But when you get a bough of hay, it's thin like this, it has to be the thin string. It will have 2 thin bits of string holding the bough in place. So what I do is you get an extra bit of baling twine, this is what it's called, that they use it a lot. You'll probably have it around the yard. They use it to sort of make tie-up rings and everything safe for the horses. Honestly, if you live on a farm or just a yard, there will be baling twine somewhere. So what you do is you get your string that you want sort of undone. Let me just zoom you in a little bit here. So as you can see, this is the bit of string that I need undone. I get this bit of baling twine and I just hook it underneath like this. So you've basically got this. It's not that hard. Right. Then you need a little bit of power from your end. But what you do, once you've got your bit of string underneath, you wrap it around this hand and you wrap it around this hand, right? So you've got a good connection on the bough. And you can put your foot up here just so you've got it. You then want to sort of seesaw and it will break. And that is how you undo a straw bough with small baling twine with baling twine. I absolutely love this and I've used it for years. It just stops you hunting for scissors. And I know what scissors are like on a yard. You can never find them. So then you just sort of pull down the baling twine and then you can reuse the baling twine after the bough has gone, or you can pull it out. But I'm just going to leave it in there for now just because I find that if you pull the baling twine out of the straw, it then sort of loosens up the straw, and I don't want to do that right now. In this case, as you can see, they have like little sections. So I'm going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to use 5 like this. This is the section that I need. I'm going to pop this into. What we do is, obviously it's easier when you've got little sections, but you shake it. So I just shake it over the bed, and once it's sort of covered one area, then you move on to the next. Have all your new straw on top of your bed. You then want to do the same pat down that I done earlier. This is like what I said, it creates a firm, sort of compact bit of straw. So then once they do go to the toilet and they do some poos on the bed, hopefully it then lays more on top. Then to get your line that you like, fork over, create the line again, and then you can sort of pat it down and just sort of keep creating that firm line. So then you just want to take your hay to your stable. A lot of equestrians keep their hay very differently. Some will be in hay nets, some will be in mangers, some will be just on the floor. So I normally do sometimes put the hay in the hay nets, but sometimes I get worried about if they're going to get their leg stuck in the hay net, and also it's really, really good to put hay on the floor because horses will then stretch down and reach their hay sort of on the floor. It's not good for them to sort of have their heads up like this eating hay. They should be sort of down low eating it off the floor. So at the moment I've just sort of been putting it on the floor really. I've always sort of switched between the two. It matters if you've got a greedy eater, obviously you may have to put it in hay net. The only thing about obviously getting their foot stuck in the hay net, what I recommend is actually tying the hay net up to a bit of baling twine up, sort of, just so you're not tying it around a bar or anything, just so the hay net then can snap if there is any difficulty in that situation. So then you're left with some mess outside the stable. So you just want to gather that all up together. Scoop it up. So there you have it. That is how you muck out a straw bed. I've told you how to muck it out, how to lay it, how to obviously give as much hay as your horse needs, and sort of recommended tips on hay nets and leaving your hay on the floor. I've also showed you how to empty a barrow and chuck it up the muck heap. And yeah, I feel like we've learned quite a lot today if you was a little bit unsure how to muck out a stable. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, which is Fifis_Welsh_ponies. And I also am on TikTok. So definitely go follow me on there, which is the same. So I'll see you next time. And if you like these videos, comment down below and let me know what you want to see next. Bye.